Good evening from Washington. I'm Larry O'Connor. Let me just start out by saying no one is trying to ban a book in this country, at least not conservatives, not Republicans. No parents, no taxpayers, no citizens who go to their school board meetings and call into question whether certain books are appropriate in a school library. They're not trying to ban books. And by the way, state legislators who have voted to put some sort of guardrails on the material in school libraries right now, and the governors who have signed those bills into law, they're also not trying to ban books. No, no, no. No book is banned. They can't ban books, by the way. There's a First Amendment protecting the publication of books and the sale of books. You want to see these books, go ahead and get them yourself. All we are saying, we parents, we taxpayers, we citizens, we state legislators, we governors, we conservatives, all we're saying is some material is not appropriate for a school library, a school that we're paying for, by the way, with our tax dollars. It's not like it's voluntarily given up as a donation to our state and local government. No, it's confiscated from us. It's taxes, and that money is used to pay for these schools. So we have a say in how that money is spent. That's how this works in a constitutional republic. Our representatives on the school board, they look out for us, and we get to go to them and say, hey, we don't think you're spending our money right. And one of the things you're doing with our money that we don't like is that you're putting pornography in the school library, and it's accessible by elementary school kids, junior high kids, and yes, teenagers who are high school students as well. I know everybody says, wow, they're teenagers. Yeah, you know what? I would like to make a choice as to whether my teenager sees pornography or not. I'm a parent. I should still have control. But Democrats say no. Democrats and the activists who are really funding them these days, the Democratic Party has become the activist party, they want to make sure that pornography is accessible by our children. And let's just be clear. This is pornography. Let's take a look at one example of just one of the books that we're trying to keep out of our kids' hands. This book is called Gender Queer. And you can see exactly what this book shows. That's pornography. And a 12-year-old shouldn't see it. A 17-year-old shouldn't see it, especially if that 17-year-old is my 17-year-old child and I've decided that it's not appropriate for them. They're not ready for it. That's the point. It's my decision for my child. You know, a lot of times when we talk about these books being offensive and inappropriate for children, and Democrats say, oh, there go the conservatives trying to ban books. I think that there's some notion out there that we're talking about Judy Blume, or we're talking about Mark Twain, or To Kill a Mockingbird. By the way, Mark Twain and To Kill a Mockingbird, Democrats have cut those books out of school libraries in California because it talks about slavery and race relations in a way that they don't like. So there is actual censorship going on in the schools of great pieces of literature like that, but it's the Democrats who are demanding it. No, no, no. We conservatives, we're not talking about those books. We're talking about graphic novels set up like comic books, like the one you just saw, or like this one. Here, take a look at this. Yeah, that's a book that we believe should only be accessible to children under a parent's guidance. That's not banning a book. That's saying that some books just aren't appropriate for the school setting, not outside the confines of a discussion with a parent who can actually talk about these things within the scope and framework of the value system, and yes, even the religious faith that the parent is raising that child with. But Democrats demand our children have access to these books outside of our permission, outside of our consent. Here's another one that they're just dying to let our kids have. This one's called Flamer, and, well, you can see what's happening there. There's a whole lot of nudity in these books, isn't there? Graphic, drawn-out cartoon nudity for our children, and Democrats really want that in our kids' hands, your kids' hands. Here's one more book that we think probably isn't appropriate. We can't even show you all of this stuff. I'm embarrassed to actually put this in front of you, but you know what? You need to see it. I know this is offensive. It should be offensive. If you're not offended by the notion of 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds having access to this material, honestly, I mean, you might be a Democrat. Because right now it's Democrats who are insisting on those books being in the hands of children. Why? And why, when we stand up and say, no, this is wrong, this is inappropriate, this isn't right, we're called censors and Nazis and book burners and book banners. And no, we're parents. But there is a broader question here that I'm touching on that I think we can explore even a little bit further when we look at the state of Colorado, where beyond the discussion of books accessible to children, there's a new law being debated. Now, this bill would make it a felony for an adult to indecently expose themselves to a child, to a minor. Now, I don't know why this is controversial, but it is. And every single Democrat in the state legislature in Colorado voted against making it a felony to indecently expose yourself to a minor. Why? Why did they vote against it? Here's why.
These types of laws have been used to ban drag shows, to target individuals who use the restroom of the sex that they identify with, a public restroom.
Well, and that just says it all. That sort of gives away the story. That's sort of saying the quiet part out loud. It's the thing that they say behind closed doors in their caucus meetings, but rarely did they say it on the record with the cameras and the microphones rolling. You can't make it a felony to indecently expose yourself to a child, because then that would be used against Drag Queen Story Hour. That would be used to ensure that only men go in the men's restroom and only women go in the women's restroom. Now, let's just pull on this thread a little bit, shall we? Let's just use our brains, our logic, and our reason to play this issue out. If you can lawfully arrest someone for indecent exposure to a minor while they are performing at a drag queen story hour, then isn't a drag queen story hour, by definition, indecent exposure to a child? If you can lawfully arrest somebody for going into a restroom and exposing their genitalia to a child in that restroom, then isn't, by definition, allowing a fully grown man into a little girl's room or a woman into a boy's room, isn't that, in fact, indecent exposure? Isn't that criminal? And of course, the answer is yes. Up until about a minute and a half ago in this country and in this culture, yes, that was criminal. And that's what this debate is, protecting children. And sadly, I mean, listen, I wish it weren't a party line debate, but it is. There is one party on a consistent basis that is representing parents saying children should be protected from this material and from people that wish them harm. And there's one party, the Democrats, who insist on this behavior continuing, insist on that pornographic material, that offensive material that you just saw. They insist on that material being in the hands of your children without your consent. I mean, at least you know where the parties stand, and I hope you vote accordingly. But I got to ask you something, and I hope you're asking this question too. Why is it so important to Democrats that our children be exposed to this kind of indecent material and behavior? Why are they so insistent on this issue? It's food for thought. There's more to come on O'Connor Tonight. Keep it here. You're watching Salem News Channel.